You think that it should come really naturally and that it should be something that's just really easy, that, you've got breasts, why can't you breastfeed?
In this section, we'll go through some of the most common breastfeeding difficulties and some tips for overcoming them.
With my eldest daughter, I got really, really bad cracked nipples, and it was just excruciating when every time I fed, I would just dread it, and it was incredibly painful, and often they bled as well. My midwife was really helpful the first time, and this time round I got a lactation consultant, which was absolutely invaluable, and she just made sure I was latching correctly and everything.
Breastfeeding shouldn't be painful. If it is, take your baby off and relatch her. If the pain persists, ask for help.
They actually heal incredibly quickly, because there's a lot of blood flow in the area. So the best advice my midwife said to me was, she said, Michelle, I promise you it gets better. You just have to hang in there, keep feeding, and as long as you're latching correctly, it will get better really quickly, and it does.
Marcia also had a sore nipple in the first week, and it quickly developed into something more serious. She's had a lot of help over the last 4 months, from her midwife, friends, family, and a lactation consultant.
It started with a bad latch. I really, as a new mum, I really didn't know what I was doing. Thought, how hard can it be? Throw a baby on the boob, bang, you're done.
A bad latch can be painful and also means that your baby will not be feeding as effectively as they could be.
Every time he fed on that side, I was in agony. I had tears in my eyes. So I felt like a bit of a failure. The next morning I sought some help from my midwife, and she was able to give me some advice on how to start the healing process. There was some infection there, and I had to have some treatment for that, antibiotics and antifungal treatment. So in hindsight, I wish I'd got help earlier.
Our advice to mothers is, even if there's a little tinge when you're breastfeeding, take baby off and put baby on again.
When your milk comes in 2 or 3 days after birth, your breasts may be engorged to begin with.
One of the challenges that I've had is that on my left breast, she doesn't tend to feed on that one as much as she does with her right. And usually the left breast will get hard, and it becomes quite sore. So I have to kind of express it out. It just gets pretty painful sometimes.
Some babies will be able to empty both breasts every time they feed. Others will be full after one. Although babies often prefer one side, it is important to have them feed on both sides throughout the day to avoid getting blocked milk ducts.
I have talked to my midwife about it. She was saying that if things like that occur, then just massage it every time I'm in the shower. So that helped.
Can you see your pom-poms?
Emily had help from her mother when she discovered a lump in her breast.
She said it was probably a blocked duct, and so I had a bath, and then I sat down on the chair, and Mum put a hot flannel. I put a hot flannel on my breast, and Mum showed me how to massage the duct. You just kind of push it gently and push it down, and then when I was feeding, I would push on the where the blockage was. So try and help it, just gently. You all right? You all right? Just try and help that milk come through.
Come and sit down over here, sweetheart.
If left untreated, a blocked duct can lead to an infection of the breast called mastitis, which is what has happened to Lindsay.
It hurt quite a bit to feed in the middle of the night, and obviously half asleep you don't really think too much about it. I just wondered if Ben was latching wrong, and it wasn't until about mid-morning that I noticed a small patch of red. When I spoke to Healthline at about, I think it was about 11ish, it was probably about the size, it was about an old 50-cent piece. By the time, just before I went to the doctor, I checked again, and it had doubled in size. By the time I actually saw the doctor, about an hour or so later, it covered almost a quarter of my breast. It was quite red, and it was actually starting to snake up into my armpit. I had to think about 2 lots of antibiotics the day that I saw the doctor, and basically was feeling heaps better within a couple of hours.
Mastitis can develop very quickly, so keep an eye out for any lumps or red patches and avoid wearing tight tops or poorly fitted bras. If you think you may have mastitis, contact your GP.
The best thing is just to keep feeding. That was the main thing.
That was the hardest part.
Yeah, I just kept breastfeeding, kept massaging it.
Yeah.
Do you want to go in the jungle?
At different stages of their development, babies will suddenly want to feed more frequently. This is usually a growth spurt.
The way I can tell when she's having a growth spurt is she just feeds a lot. And she's a bit grizzly as well. And then often I'll think, oh, I wonder if she's having a growth spurt, and then she'll get weighed and she's put on like 400 grams in a week or something. And I say, oh yeah, it was.
If your baby is going through a growth spurt and feeding more often, you don't need to top her up with water, formula or food.
She feeds more, so my milk supply increases. She's managing my breasts, which are kind of her breasts now. Hey, hey.
Betty's toddler has a new baby sister who was born by caesarean 3 weeks early.
I was in hospital for probably about 4 nights, and found it really hard because the milk supply was really slow, and so I almost kind of gave up, kind of thinking it was me with the low milk supply.
The baby was dehydrated, so the paediatrician started her on formula in the first few days.
That's good. Are you comfy like that?
Very. When I was in hospital, baby kept crying, so we used to always top up with formula. And then I had a visit from the midwife who actually informed me, okay, we'll try and keep her on the actual breast as much as you can, which I did. And every day, regardless of how hard it was and the baby crying, eventually the actual milk supply came. So the perseverance of putting her on the actual breast made the milk flow.
Oh, isn't that fabulous?
Betty's baby is now gaining weight and thriving.
That's so good that you've gone, totally onto breast milk and, for that little bit of a rocky start at the beginning. Suckle, suckle, suckle. Lots and lots of suckling, and then that milk really doubled in supply. And, we got a lovely baby with lovely weight gains, but was happy and settled. Yeah. It was great.